our webinar realizing end-to-end regulatory and risk reporting, including Solvency and CRD4. We are very excited to be with you all today and really appreciate your time, the opportunity to be with you. I'm Francesco Di Natale, Senior Solution Consultant here at OneStream Software. And I'm very excited to have Kay Engel from Function 6 and Michael Grieger from Authority Software here with me today. Do you guys want to say a quick hello, introduce yourselves?
Yes, sure. I will kick off. So I'm Kai Engel. I'm one of the partners at Function 6. We've been working very closely with OneStream for a couple of years now, and very excited to be able to show you some of these possibilities and options that we've been working on and that we think is ready for the market.
Thank you. Michael? Are you probably speaking on mute?
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Grieger. I'm a director at Authority Software, and we're going to be demonstrating to you today how Report Authority can be used to help automate regulatory reporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. So moving on. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A section, and we will be coming back to your question at the end of the session. So many organizations we work with really face big fragmentation challenges, both in terms of systems and processes. And typically the two things go hand in hand. The ever-changing regulatory requirements really put a lot of strain on organizations that need to constantly adapt their systems, data, and processes to ensure full compliances. So OneStream brings to the market, and move on the next slide, Kay, please, a completely unified platform, a single application that enables multiple solutions, such as financial closing consolidation, planning, budgeting, forecasting, reporting analytics, and we even have our embedded data quality engine. Our proprietary extensible capability really allows us to meet a multiple reporting requirement, whether this is IFRS, Solvency, or any other requirements within the single platform. You can move on the slides, Kai, it's fine, just put that on the screen. So you see that our ability really with a single platform, we can really evolve over time to meet the ever-changing regulatory requirement, but also internal management requirements that might change over time without having to create a new application or recreate things from scratch. The embedded financial intelligence really allows us to leverage a lot of the logic and calculation you need to meet the financial requirement without having to create these logics from scratch every time. And we also have our embedded machine learning capability that really allow us to get high accuracy forecasts at very granular level, producing thousands of targets. So I'm going to hand over now to Kay and Michael that will give you a walkthrough of how we can meet regulatory reporting requirement within the platform and really leveraging the integration with Authority software for the last mile, the XBRL, basically submission to the regulator. And now I'm handing over to you guys.
Perfect, thank you, Francesco. So we'll just quickly give you just a bit of an agenda, a bit of an overview. So we'll give you a bit of an idea to companies, sort of Function 6 and Authority Software, and do a bit of introductions and things like that there. We'll then talk about the integration, and at the moment this demonstration will be done specifically for Solvency II reporting, but clearly the concepts are very similar to COREP FinRep and can therefore be replicated. We just thought for demonstration purposes there's no point in doing both, so we've gone for Solvency II. We will then go through the demonstration, and we will do a Q&A sort of at the end if there's any extra questions that will come through in the comments. So just a little bit about Function 6. So we've been partners with OneStream for about 2 years now, I think it is. We are sort of take a holistic view to our projects. So we do a lot of solution planning, where you sort of get defining the parameters of your project ultimately, and making sure that you're getting the highest ROI, to then getting some sort of solution control in place, making sure that the teams are in place and the project is delivered appropriately, then some solution design, and really making sure that we're achieving what we need for the business. Then go into a build and test phase where we do a lot of SIT testing, UAT, and ultimately make sure that the business is ready to then take the tool on at the end and it's actually going to benefit them ultimately, and then completely handing over so that the business can run business as usual and are sort of autonomous in their process. Okay, then just a little bit about Authority Software. Michael, would you like to go through some information there?
At Authority Software, we have a number of solutions specifically around regulatory reporting. Quite specifically, where regulators are requesting information in very specialized electronic formats, such as XBRL, iXBRL, and XML reporting. And we do have clients using our software across Europe.
Okay. So we've got this, as I appreciate, a rather sort of wordy slide, but it's a little bit more about DPM Authority, which is what we're going to be showing specifically today. So DPM data point model methodology, yeah, so these covers input templates for Solvency II, CRD, and NSTs, for example. So yeah, some of the core features is to generate XBRL tagged templates, automate mapping. You can link it to Excel, OneStream, and other relational databases as well. You can validate and resolve your data. It's very interactive with the validation messages and very easy to read. We'll be showing that in a little bit. And then ultimately you export these templates to the QRTs or NSTs into XBRL format, and it's all ready for the regulator. So yes, ultimately, as I said, this is some integration for Solvency II reporting. So ultimately what we've done is within OneStream, we've got a GAAP IFRS balance sheet, sort of fairly standard. We've then created a Solvency II balance sheet from that within OneStream. And all of that information is then pushed through to DPM Authority for your Solvency II, to populate your Solvency II QRTs. And we will then, ultimately, you can generate an XBRL file, which you then import through the portals to the regulators. So we'll just go on through to our demonstration. So if I quickly end slideshow, and I can just start to get some of the information. So we've got, so just to give a little bit of background around this. So yeah, the webinars, like you said, we're showing the integration between OneStream and Authority Software, which is a technology partner of OneStream. A little bit of background as to why this came about was a number of us at Function 6 were at a project for an international health insurer, which were running an RFP ultimately to select their new EPM system. And the burning platform was regulatory reporting. It ultimately grew through to consolidation and planning. OneStream, and there was one other vendor in the running. And ultimately at the time, unfortunately, OneStream didn't have a sort of a robust offering. But now with this integration with Authority Software, there is a very strong, robust answer to this. And we feel, for the banking and insurance sectors, particularly the OneStream sales guys are saying to us more and more that these sorts of questions are starting to pop up in RFPs a lot more of, it's great that you've got the solution, but what do we need to do for this last mile reporting? We want to have a strong integration. And we really do feel that we now have that as a solution. So to sort of, go through, ultimately what we're going to be doing is going through the balance sheet ultimately. So I'll show you some of the hierarchies and some of the configuration within OneStream that we do. We'll then map these through to Authority Software. And then, we can sort of show you what Authority Software will look like. So within OneStream, we've got our entity dimension, and we've got a total group with 4 entities that we've got. And what is often the case, you can see, is sometimes there are 3 entities that will roll up to your solo insurance entity, not necessarily the 4th. So where you've got the 4 entities through to group, we've only got information for 3 that are required for your solo reporting. If we then go through to our accounts, we've created an IFRS balance sheet, very standard. Everyone would have seen this, nothing terribly exciting, but I'll just, for these purposes, I can just show you. So we've got goodwill costs and goodwill amortization as part of your hierarchy that we build up. Yeah, like I said, standard balance sheet. What we've done is then we've created a solvency balance sheet. So it's an alternative roll-up of the same balance sheet's accounts. So, and this is in the QRT format. So if we expand goodwill, you can see goodwill as a parent, let's say, is used within your Solvency II. You don't need the lower level detail. So we've created this chart of accounts just to ultimately show the roll-up from there. And then we have got a Solvency II balance sheet. So this is ultimately what the QRT would look like in that sort of format. And we've got, you can see a naming convention here that will help us with our automated mapping that we will show during the demonstration of Authority Software. We have then also got under UD8, we've got some dimensions. We've got Solvency II adjustments, which are used, their standard solvency adjustments that are made. We've got some IFRS adjustments. And then these two, again, similar to the naming convention that we saw within the accounts, this will be used for mapping of the accounts. So if we then go on through to, let's have a look at some of these balance sheets. So I will, for these purposes, just show the insurance entity that we created. But yeah, standard IFRS balance sheet again, we've got all of our IFRS input data. So everything that will be entered by the business. Then there's if there's any IFRS adjustments, standard sort of adjustments that are made, and ultimately your IFRS number at the end of the day. If we look at the same view, but we can do this from a insurance perspective, from a Solvency II balance sheet, we can see here, so we've taken the IFRS numbers. These are all grayed out, so they're not able to change. They're all sort of locked in, and we can then have a view of all of these eliminations and adjustments that are made that are Solvency II specific, which ultimately gives you your Solvency II adjustment, which is calculated field of all of the adjustments, and your Solvency II number ultimately. So if we have a look, we can now have a look at this. Is we've created an annual view of the balance sheet. So if you have a look, the annual view requires you to have the Solvency II value and your statutory values. At a quarterly perspective, that's different, but it just shows the sort of the flexibility of what we can build. One thing to note that these are all these Solvency II figures here are calculated via member formulas. So none of this is manually entered. This is all flowing through from your standard IFRS balance sheet, and the adjustments which are also calculated as required. So this is all automated from that perspective. As you can see, so far, this has all been sort of fairly standard OneStream functionality. There's nothing overly fancy or anything like that. We're using OneStream really at its sort of core functionality. And what is great about this is it also keeps a lot of the control and the governance within OneStream. So any of your user security, etc., everything is really tightly controlled and maintained from that perspective. And because we're using Authority Software for the final mile of reporting. There's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel and trying to do anything extra within Authority Software. All we want to do is we want to get our final XBRL file out. So if I then show Authority Software, so I'll quickly click in. What's really good about Authority Software, it's nicely sort of built, very sort of visual and quite easy to understand and read through. Really quite good. For this demonstration purposes, I've just created, we've got a content of submission, basic information, and a balance sheet ultimately. Just to sort of quickly show you. So I will switch through to the balance sheet. From here, if I just pin this here, you can see, so we've got our OneStream connection. So this shows that we are connected to OneStream already, which we will set up to pass the data through as part of the adapter. And you can see this, we've got our IFRS balance sheet, our Solvency II balance sheet, etc. We can see how all of that is all connected. Now, to go through, so I will do some sort of initial tagging just to sort of show you some of the ways that we can do the automation and the tagging. If we go through to, so let's do deferred tax, for example, you can drag and drop on the functionality, highlights the rows. You can see, so sorry, apologies, all the white cells are manual entry at the moment. They're all XBRL tagged, but not mapped. So we are now just mapping our OneStream dimensions through to our Authority Software QRTs. So I've now just dragged and dropped, so both of those rows are now mapped for accounts. And then if I just do for UD8, for the rows and columns, I'll quickly map those. So our Solvency 2 value and our stat value. I can then refresh links quickly. And we can say accept all those changes. We've just got the one, just for deferred, there's a Solvency 2 value, there isn't an IFRS value. On smaller QRTs, this sort of stuff is, quick and easy to drag and drop, not a problem. But on some of the larger QRTs, it can be really quite difficult. So as we discussed earlier on, based on our naming convention that we did with these, we can highlight accounts, and we get a button up here for auto mapping. So if we click on that, this, because I've got these auto mapped, it will just be overwritten. So I'll just say yes. So we are going to be populating the rows, which are the accounts. We've got table prefix and row prefixed. What we're going to do here is remove periods and underscores, and we're going to remove white spaces and underscores. And this is just to get it in line with the naming convention that we created within our balance sheet. So if I click OK, that has now mapped all the rows. And if I do the same with UD8, again, if there's only 2 columns, so it's not much of a problem, but ultimately it would be click on that. We're now mapping the columns. And again, just to remove those 2 ticks for our mapping and click OK, that has now mapped those. So I will just refresh quickly, and we can then get all of those values in. You can see there's 68 changes that we found. So if I click accept all of those, that is now populated. So the purple cells are all mapped, and orange are now the calculated cells that we've got. You can also, if you click on these cells, there is the adapter. You can see clicking on that puzzle piece gives us some information in terms of what the mapping is, where we've got. So the entity name, the consolidation, currency, etc., any of the UDs that we require. So we have, which is yeah. So as you can see, very quick and easy to be able to go through all of those. From that, we can now run validations. So I'll click on the validation report. While this is running, this is now, so the way Authority Software works is Authority Software consumes the taxonomy. So whatever the regulator provides is what is in the system. You therefore can be assured that the portal that you're ultimately submitting to, if you haven't got any issues in Authority Software, you won't have any issues with the portal, which is great for your, you don't want back and forth trying to get your submissions in. So we've got here, you can see there's non-blocking and then blocking fail validations that we've got, and we've got the technical and the business validations. You can see from the validation message, it's really quite intuitive and easy to see. So we can see that is the text that comes from within the taxonomy, and we can see the validation method. So this is ultimately, we've got some data in the balance sheet, but we haven't said on the content of submission that we are populating the balance sheet. That's therefore a blocking, and that won't let us go any further. And again, just a non-blocking, but more of a warning, best estimate, and we can see that that is sort of, if that is there for 0, it's not reported, etc. You can go through the expressions and understand. Quite nice, quite quick and easy to go through from there. Another thing to note that is quite good is there's roll forward. So when we were going through the mapping earlier on, your next period, you just roll forward and the mapping is maintained. Nothing changes. You can just carry on as is. We have also got, ultimately then, when you no longer have any validations, that's all cleared, you can generate your XBRL instance. This creates the file that you would ultimately upload through to the portal. So again, a very quick process to go through from that perspective. And by the time you're ready to submit, you won't have any issues with the portal. So there's a lot of focus around there. And then one more that is really quite sort of interesting that we've got, and Michael mentioned earlier on, the report authority, which is more the sort of narrative focus behind authority software, one of the tools. What can be used for that, particularly with the Solvency II perspective, is you've got to do your SFCR reports. You can now have your text version of that, and you can link your QRTs through to that. And again, with the roll forward, all you're doing is refreshing your links. Every time you get a new update, you make any changes, you can just refresh links, get your data in here, and again, similarly on your narrative report, that will be done. So we are showing, we've got a demonstration, a webinar on that on the 24th of November. And so we will be with it. We've currently got it on our LinkedIn, but please sort of message us and let us know if you're interested in attending, and we can then go through that in a bit more detail and start to show that more. And yeah. So I think ultimately, that's a majority of what we wanted to show within our demonstration.
Sorry, Kai, if I can just add one final thing, is that
sure.
On for future quarters, if it's using the same XBRL taxonomy, the process is as Kai described. You'll just roll forward the document into the next period, and then refresh links, which will bring the data through from OneStream. Now, if there's a new taxonomy to use for a new period, what then has to happen? So, for example, if there's a new line item in the balance sheet that didn't happen before, when you roll forward the document, you will actually have two unmapped cells that will suddenly appear. There is functionality within the software to search for all cells that are not mapped to OneStream. You can click that, and then you're only dealing with the new cells. It could be new cells in existing tables, or perhaps it could be entirely new tables. The process then would be using standard OneStream functionality. New accounts or new members can be created in order to capture this new data that you need to report. Once those are created, you can then come to Report Authority, and you're only going to be mapping any new cells or new tables that weren't there before. So whilst it is a little bit more work when dealing with new taxonomies, it's really not a massive job within the software. And then obviously, a big change in new taxonomies is also often within the validation rules, and those just come because we're using the taxonomy. You just get those new rules automatically. Okay, thanks, Guy.
Thank you, Michael. So I guess then, Francesco, are there any questions that have been?
Yes, there are. Sorry. Okay, we got a question on: do you only support the Solvency II balance sheet forms in OneStream, or the full Solvency II data set and calculations?
Yes, it would be just for demonstration purposes. We've only done the balance sheet, but ultimately, yes, it would be the full set for Solvency II, all the QRTs, etc. will all be done.
Okay, thank you. Then I have another question on how much effort is it required to integrate OneStream and a Report Authority software?
Yeah, I mean, well, Michael's probably a bit better placed, but I mean, it's a matter of days, really. I think, Michael, it's very quick to be able to do that.
That's correct. If you decide to go the route, it's not mandatory, but if you decide to name your accounts that are going to be populating your rows using the same, like the convention is using the taxonomy, such as R0070 and then column C0010. If you're using the same terminology, it's really straightforward. You'll basically go to each template and use the automap functionality. But where you're not using accounts set up for that, it's a case of dragging and dropping, also as Kai demonstrated early on in the presentation. So it does depend, obviously. I mean, not all insurers will be reporting all of the QRTs, so it really depends on how big you are and really how the accounts have been set up within OneStream. I see Steen is also asking the question about which taxonomies are covered within the software. So at the moment, as far as we're concerned, we've actually got all of the taxonomies that have been prepared using the data point model methodology. So we began with the big ones, which would have been the EBAs, the COD4 taxonomies, that's typically known as COREP and FINREP reporting, and we had the IOPA Solvency 2 taxonomies. But over time, we're finding that a lot of the national regulators are starting to release more taxonomies that are only specific within their jurisdiction. And our taxonomies library is growing extensively. We've got the, for example, Bank of England banking taxonomies. We've got the Nederlandse Bank taxonomies in there. We've got, the Central Bank of Ireland are adding quite a few more. There's the NSTs in France. And as soon as new taxonomies are released, it takes us about 2 weeks from the time this taxonomy is released for us to go through our QA process and for us to have that available to our users via the way of a patch. But the software that we showed you today is really just covering those that require XBRL reporting, where the regulator has constructed the taxonomy using the data point model methodology. So where we've got tables with rows and columns. Other XBRL reporting, such as ESCF reporting or reporting to the Danish Business Authority or Irish Revenue or HMRC, that's covered by our other software product, which we'll be demonstrating in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. And I think just one thing to add onto that as well, where Michael was saying how the authority software consumes the taxonomy, so you're getting everything, and where they give themselves 2 weeks to do all the testing, etc. There's a lot of other software on the market which they build these validations in, so it's quite difficult. That's often human error where the taxonomy is interpreted, and you could interpret it slightly differently, etc. Something like that, for example, in your build. And it's obviously, if somebody is building it themselves, it could take a lot longer. So having something like this, where you could start your data sort of, 2 weeks after the taxonomy is released, it's sort of available for you. I think that creates a lot less stress for the reliance on the taxonomy and the software. It's there, it's ready, and it's working. You just need to populate the data in and check your validations.
And then I see there's another question asking about the review approval sign-off process. Now, in this particular case, we really are leaning quite heavily on the OneStream system. So, at the time we felt we wouldn't want to replicate the controls effectively that you've got on how numbers will be changing within OneStream. That said, we have got a web-based version of the software in the works at the moment. Within that, you can actually assign various users to individual template groups, and we will have separate workflow for each of those, including the ability to raise review queries, review queries that are pinned, which will automatically be raised in future periods. All that functionality will be there, but the release of the web-based version of this is probably still at least a year away from release. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just catching up on the question. We focus on the Solvency 01, but where the same GL accounts map to different QRTs which have different row and column references. How is this dealt with?
So if I understand you correctly, if the data exists within OneStream but is not maintained within accounts that match the row and column reference, that mapping then will fall to the user to maintain that mapping. But again, once that mapping is done, that can then be reused in future reporting periods through the roll forward process. And naturally, if the cells change or change in meaning with new taxonomies, then that mapping will still need to be manually mapped. But the great thing is that it's not a black box solution where you're forced to effectively go and use very specialized consultants in order to do that. in the end, the process is using standard OneStream functionality to adjust the metadata, to add the additional rows or columns that you will need, to populate it again using standard OneStream functionality, and then the XBRL is then taken care of through Report Authority through the drag and drop mapping exercise. I know, Klaus, you also asked whether the solution is available on the OneStream marketplace. That is something that we are working quite closely with OneStream in order to get it on there. For today, it is a standalone application, but we do hope that within the next year or two, this is actually something you'll be able to license directly on the OneStream marketplace. Again, there's a question asking about whether the software covers the divergence for Solvency II between the PRA and the IOPA's taxonomies. Absolutely. We know at the moment, UK insurers are not on the most recent versions of the Solvency II taxonomies. For each reporting period, you get to choose which taxonomy you want to use and for which version. And when it's inevitable that the UK, that the PRA will release replacement taxonomies for that, that is already covered. Our banks are already experiencing that, where the banks are also now behind the EBA taxonomies. The version 3.2s are being implemented at the moment in Europe, whereas in the UK, there's no current plans by the PRA to adopt it. However, they have released many Bank of England like local taxonomies. So absolutely, the software will deal with that scenario. It's really just up to you to decide at the beginning of reporting period which taxonomy you're going to be using for that purpose. Okay, there's a question about whether Report Authority is cloud software or must be locally installed. Currently, it is a piece of software that needs to be locally installed, but as mentioned, we are building a web-based SaaS version of it. The development is actually quite far on. For those that are interested, we can perform a demonstration, but we still got about a year left before that product's going to be ready for release.
Thank you very much, Michael. I don't see any other question, so I think we'll probably wrap up. I just want to thank you all, Kai and Michael. That was very, very impressive, and you all on the call for being with us today and giving us the opportunity to showcase these very interesting capabilities in OneStream and Report Authority Software. As always, please reach out if you have any questions. If you'd like to discuss this further with us, with Function 6, with Report Authority, we'd be very, very excited to talk further about this and give you a further demonstration of the capability. Stay safe and have a great rest of your day. And thank you very much, Kay and Michael. Thanks a lot all.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.